That's amazing. Oh, I see God in the window.
He's the boss, isn't he, Scott Walker? You've absolutely got to love him.
You really got to me down, I'm afraid. That's, I think he's probably been my idol since I was a kid. That's very moving. I want a copy of that.
You can have it. You can take it away.
I'm absolutely... that's really thrown me. That's... Thank you very much.
It's interesting to hear Scott talking about the way that you freed so many artists, and I think that's true. You know, of course, you were the first androgynous icon, and these days, I mean, people think nothing of blokes in frocks and full makeup. I mean, everybody's done it from Kurt Cobain to Eddie Izzard, but there were times...
I don't think much of it either. Sorry.
But I suppose, you know, times were very, very different when you were kind of, you know, showing off your sexual ambiguity. I mean, I bet you couldn't stop off for a cup of tea anywhere north of Soho, really, could you, without being battered?
Well, you could, but you took your life in your hands. I mean, I think, again, you know, so much of it runs with wanting to sort of be provocative, sort of making a point of being confrontational, that you kind of did it more out of bravado as much as anything else. I mean, the two feelings that were running through me is that, one, that I wanted to make people aware of me, and the second thing was that I refused that I would have to live any kind of life that was behind closed doors and all that. In a way, again, reading, I've been fortunate enough to see how many people's lives have been so screwed up because they had to live their real lives in a kind of a strange, dark twilight kind of way. And I just knew I wasn't going to ever do that. And I think, frankly, it was the right thing to do. I would still say that that is one of the most important things to do with one's life, is that you can't hide who or what you are. And you'll enjoy yourself, in the long run, much better if you sort of come clean from the beginning, I think.
Your influence has been incredibly broad. I mean, you feel it in the spectre of dance, in the rock and roll arena, and even in fashion. I mean, you must have killed yourself laughing a couple of years ago when all the supermodels were shaving their eyebrows off.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm much more of I'm a fan of music. I'm the ultimate fan. I get so excited about a sound that strikes me, that really sort of catches me and makes me dance inwardly. You know, it's like it's a life force for me. Music always has been, and I always will be. This kind of 12-year-old kid, I think. Fashion doesn't do that to me in the slightest. It's just stuff to put on. I see it much more as something that I just dress up the different characters that I still come up with. You know, I've gone back to doing characters on things like the Outside album. I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. Now I feel a lot safer about it because I just don't become them off stage either, you know. I do think fashion is funny, really funny. It's so nonsensical. We don't have to do it. I mean, it's just one of those things like cuisine. You know, we just have to eat. We don't have to, like, put a little dress on it. Broccoli, you know, with a pair of stockings on. It's totally unnecessary, and that's what makes it amusing.
From the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, this is Lady Stardust.
This, I think, is a really lovely song, and it sounds really good even today. I like this one. I think it's a good bit of songwriting. I think it probably was one of the first songs that I wrote for Ziggy. I was trying to do this concoction based on an American guy called Vince Taylor, who came over to Britain. It was totally out of his mind. And he was a failed Elvis-type impersonator in America. But he went to France via England and made himself a kind of an Elvis over in France. And then one night went out on stage dressed as Jesus and said that his music was over and he was going to save the world. Vince is no longer with us, I'm afraid. But I hung out with him for a while when he was over in London, and he was quite out of his tree. I remember one day that he took me down Tottenham Court Road and he had a map of the world and he laid it out on the pavement and showed me where all the Martians were going to land. And we were like kneeling there over this map of the world in the middle of all the rush hour pedestrians. And I think, what is this bloke at? This guy's he's out of his gourd. And then I lost track of him. I mean, somebody like that stays with you. And he became sort of the role model for Ziggy. He was one of the many. And then I pieced together bits and pieces of other artists, and they all became this rather grand, stylish lad, Ziggy.
David Bowie with White Light on Radio 1. A live favourite of yours, David. I think they're all flinging their pants at you down the front when you kick off with that one, aren't they?
Well, I think it's a lot of older girls who are throwing my pants back at me, ones that I left in their rooms many, many years ago. The Velvets were probably, again, along with Scott and a number of others, the Velvets were really very, very big influence on me musically. A funny story about the Velvets. I told Lou this for the first time in rehearsals the other day. He could not believe this. When I first came to America, very early 70s, a friend of mine said, oh, the Velvets are working down at the, I think it was the Electric Circus. So I went down there to look at them, and they were wonderful. They did all my favourites. Heroin, you know, all the finger-clicking songs, and White Light and Waiting for the Man and all those things. And it was so fantastic. And after the show was over, I went backstage. Lou Reed came to the door, and I started talking to him about all the music and about how much of an influence they'd been on me. And I seemed to be the only bloke in Britain that had ever heard of them and all that. And we chatted for about an hour. And he was wonderful, really, really nice guy. And a week later, when I met my American friend again, he said, what do you mean you talked with Lou Reed? He left the band years ago. I said, but I sat down and he said, no, that's Doug Yule, the guy who took over. And I said, God, what? When I told Lou the other day, he said, you know, I did a book signing the other week, and I looked at the back of the crowd, and I saw Doug Yule at the end of the line waving at me. Now I think Doug Yule has become more mysterious than Lou Reed in a strange way. The enigmatic Doug Yule.
I suppose we couldn't do a show like this without including some sort of token northerner, so here he is.
Hello, David, you cockney get. This is Mancunian Mick Hucknall. Tell me this, how do you react to music journalists when they judge your career? It's great to see people celebrating your music this way. I want to wish you a happy birthday and much success, and I think you're wonderful.
Well, I think you're wonderful too, Mick. Thank you very much. My immediate reaction to all that kind of thing is that I just look around my life and my group of friends and my family, and if I feel good about that, then I really don't have much to say about any of the rest. I've had such a wonderful life, all in all. Incredible experiences. And I've got away with murder. I really don't have any right to be heavy on anybody who wants to judge my life, as long as they judge their own as well.
And who else, I suppose, but one of the Pet Shop Boys would have the brass neck to ask a question like this?
I wonder which one.
Hello, this is Neil Tennant. David, do you regret saying in the early 70s you were bisexual? And were you actually bisexual at the time?
I wish I'd said, Neil, that I was trisexual, but I never did. It was a joke that came too late. Trisexual? What does that mean, David? It means I'll try anything. All right, Neil?
That kind of leads us rather neatly onto the next set of questions, which are, of course, about sex, because everybody wants to talk to you about sex, David, really, I suppose, you know. But who was really hitting on you in those days? I mean, was it girls or boys?
It was rather the other way round. My memories, well, my memories never really served me well, but if it serves me at all, I think I was hitting on everybody. I think it was that way round, because I felt that I had a real sex problem. I couldn't get any.
I don't believe that for 1 minute.
No, you shouldn't. So you shouldn't. No, I had a wonderfully, irresponsibly promiscuous time. It was just heaven. Actually, it's not bad now.
What about the worst sexually transmitted disease? Do you remember what it was and who gave it to you?
I've never had one.
Really? Oh. Let's hear some more music then from the Tin Machine era. This is Shopping for Girls. Obviously Brett Anderson was kind of hedging his bets a little bit. He didn't want to upset you, David, considering that you're 50 and all, but you know, he wasn't too keen on Tin Machine. I mean, how do you remember Tin Machine yourself? You were really belligerent about it at the time, as I recall.
I'm still incredibly belligerent about it. Maybe no, I'm not belligerent about it. I see it in a very different way from everybody else, because I went through it and I know how much I needed that experience. I'd just given up writing towards 87, 88. I was very indifferent to music. As I say, that was my real period of crisis, I feel, that I just didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. I just made a major decision to plunge myself into something that was really the most unexpected thing that I could do, just to shake myself up. And it certainly did that. Publisher be damned.